Hey everybody, this is Ven welcoming you to the MOC Spotlight, where we take apart what you build. For today's episode, we'll be taking a look at Makuta Teridax, created and posted on our message boards by a username Galva101. Now before we get started, allow me to introduce you once again to the ABCs of mocking, which is my method of reviewing that involves the three fundamental attributes known as the overall appearance of the MOC, the build of the MOC itself, and the concept and ideas behind the MOC's creation. Each quality will mount up to 5 points, leading up to a final score that will be determined at the end of the episode. And please remember that this is all based on my opinion, so let's get this started. Hey look! A custom 3D printed mask. That's kinda neat. Hey, look, this MOC looks quite familiar. Like I've seen this particular interpretation of this character before in some other form of media. The Galador toy line. Gotta hand it to you, Galva. At first glance, this MOC looks exactly like Teridax's appearance in the old as Beans Bionicle flicks. Obviously, it's not 100% accurate, but you got some of the main features and aesthetics down to the socket. And I am aware that this isn't supposed to be a recreation of the model from the movies. It is merely just inspired by the design, and more on that later. But I do really like that this is easily recognizable to me as Makuta Teridax without it just being a simple remake of the original set from 2003 or what have you. However, there's already one thing I can point out that I definitely would have changed, and it's kind of obvious. It's all this gunmetal, man. There's like too much of it. Like, I understand Teridax is supposed to have all this gunmetal. That's what his armor essentially looks like in the original set. I mean, this uses parts from the original set, but the thing is, he also had a little bit of red on him, and there is little bits of red here on this MOC, just very small bits of red. We have this Mata red here in like the midsection of the MOC that only appears in this midsection of the MOC. For some reason, there's none of this red anywhere else. It's just here. And it sticks out like a sore thumb because of how much it contrasts with all this gunmetal all over the place. And then there's the dark red that's used for the wings, which looks a bit more appropriate for the dark color scheme. But again, it doesn't really go with anything else. So yeah, no, that said, this MOC could definitely use a little bit more red. And I think to make it work, keep the dark red, get rid of the bright red, and just add more dark red to the color scheme to complement the wings a little bit. And now, the figure itself looks quite fine. This Makuta stands pretty tall without any awkward proportions to weigh him down. And for the most part, he looks pretty well armored. But there are two things that I'm not really feeling all too much. First is these arms. These arms, well, they look okay. They're not bad, but my thing is they're a little too blocky for the rest of this MOC. Like, you can look anywhere else and you'll see a bunch of natural organic shapes and whatnot, and then you look at the arms and they're pretty rectangular. They got these sharp edges to them, and the forearms appear a little exposed too. And these hands, way too small for the rest of this MOC. Just way too small. But again, looking at them in the bigger picture, it doesn't look all too bad, but it is an issue that I take with it. Also, the legs are the second thing that I have a problem with. Not necessarily the thighs or the feet. It's these cankles. Just these really small cankles that he has here. But anyway, no, I think these parts should not only be a bit bigger or bulkier, but they should also take up more of the leg. Because as you can see, the thighs all the way down to the knees take up the majority of this leg design, leaving little room for these little cankles. So these accompanied with these slightly awkward arms, I feel definitely could have been done differently, because everything else about this MOC I like a lot. I really like the torso design, I really like the wing design, I really like the weapon design. I'm not so sure how to feel about the infected How on it. I don't think that's really necessary, but the scythe itself looks pretty good. And I really like the choice for the mask. I don't see this all too often, but then again, it's not like it's an official Lego mold, this was 3D printed, but it is a very nice and unique addition to the MOC, regardless. So, as far as, the way that this MOC was built, I'd say it's pretty solid for the most part. You can definitely stand up and support his own weight somehow on these tiny cankles. But I think what really allows for that is the back of the leg design. You can see that there's a bit more support added here. So that's pretty great. Double ball joints all over the place. And I do see that Terry here has the chicken leg design, but just like chickens, he has very thin legs. Just wanted to point that out. It also makes me happy to see that the wings have their own bit of added support. See these pistons here holding them in place. I think that is really effective, considering I've tried to design big wings before, and it gets kind of annoying when they're only supported by one ball joint. So this was definitely a good decision. Very clever integration into the design. Really creative work here with the build. With all these angled connections for some of the armor pieces, you really gotta wonder like what kind of intuitive build was thrown into this torso. I mean, geez. Meanwhile, the arms are a little simple, but good effort nonetheless. The wings look great, and the head. Very interesting method of connection here, but hey, I guess if it works, then it works. Now, aside from this really interesting custom build, Makuta also sports some typical points of articulation: arms, legs, elbows, and kind of the knees. And then articulated fingers and this articulated neck to make the head move around, and the articulated wings, which I guess technically count as a function because, you know, you can flap them around and, you know, make them fly around or whatever. It looks like they can expand and contract, so that's awesome. And you can also store Krata in some parts of the Makuta too, so hey, nice to know it's retaining that feature from the original toy. Overall, it's pretty well-rounded build, so if it wasn't obvious to my fellow Bionicle fans already that this MOC is supposed to be a reinvention of Teridax's design, and of course I'm talking specifically about his 2003 set, which is like the only official set we ever got for him. But aside from updating and improving on this design, Galva also took some influence from the movie designs of Teridax, which comes into play in the choice of the mask and some of the aspects of the armor's design. The most obvious being the design of the torso, the added wings, and the choice of the mask, altogether making for what looks like a translation of the movie design into a set. Because of all the attempts that have been done to achieve that sort of thing, this is the best I've seen. And sure, it does have a few issues, but it's still really good. The builder did a pretty good job updating the old design with some of the newer LEGO elements and parts that we've gotten ever since 2003. I definitely think it's a much better and more interesting build than the original set. You know, I gotta give credit where credit is due. But I still find that this MOC has potential to be much better and much more striking. The potential to really be the definitive design of Makuta Teridax. And all it would require is just a bit more red, fixing up the arms a little bit more, and adding a bit more to the legs. So with all that said, let's move on to the final scores and get this all wrapped up. Now, shall we? In terms of appearance, this MOC receives a 4 out of 5. I really do like this Makuta's design. It's very Bionicle while also being a bit better than what Bionicle gave us in the first place. However, I do find issue with a couple of aspects of this MOC's appearance, such as the coloration, shaping of the arms, and the small cankles. But everything else I'm really impressed with, and even with these problems present, the MOC still looks really good overall. Also, the mask looks really fitting for this MOC. Now, in terms of the build, this MOC receives a 5 out of 5. This is a really great usage of parts, a solid build, and I'm glad to see that it has some features and functions available aside from basic articulation and, you know, just standing there and looking cool. No, there's much more to this MOC than just that, and I'm happy to see that. And as far as the concept goes, I gotta give this MOC a 3.5 out of 5. This MOC was built really great. This MOC looks really great. It looks like what it's supposed to look like. You know, Makuta revamped. But I do see a good bit of untapped potential. And it's this untapped potential that makes me hesitate to say that this is a completely successful job at a revamp. Like, yes, it does some things really good, does some things right, but then it also takes a few steps backward. And of course I'm talking about the MOC's appearance, but I mean, if the goal is to make something look better and, you know, just improve on it aesthetically, then, you know, I definitely have to take that into account. I do see some problems with the MOC's design that, for example, the color scheme were handled better in the original design or by other redesigns that I've seen. But again, that doesn't mean that the MOC is bad. I think it looks really good as is, but anywho. Final score, we add it all up, and we get a 12.5 out of 15. Great job, Galva101. Congrats on making it to the MOC Spotlight. I do really hope to see more out of you, and I hope to see something out of you viewers as well. Because guess what? You could earn a MOC Spotlight as well. I mean, hey, would you believe me if I said that this is the first creation that Galva101 has posted to the message boards? It's not that hard to get the attention you think you deserve. Just check out our message boards at board.ttvpodcast.com. Go to the LEGO Creations category, post whatever creations you feel like sharing with the community, and if I deem it interesting or creative enough to display on the MOC Spotlight, then I will do so in the future. Because since the MOC Spotlight's conception, I've been checking numerous places for MOCs to throw up on the Spotlight, such as Brickshelf or Reddit, MOC pages, Flickr, but my number one reference has always been the message boards. Now, I am talking a bit too much about that. I'm gonna let you all go. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all next time.